Hey guys, this is Zach with ZachAndJody.com, and today we are bringing you some more how-to content. What I'm going to talk you guys through today in this short, simple video is exactly how we do our black and white conversions. To this day, we still get a lot of questions about how we get those milky, creamy skin tones and the overall look of the black and whites. It's actually quite simple, and I'm going to show you guys in just a few minutes here exactly how to do it. I'm going to use this image from Brett and Jillian's wedding that we shot back in 2013 and show you guys exactly how I took it from the original photo to this. Now, this is the final image that I actually sent to the client. It has this cool film emulation with a hybrid of my own from Visco Film Simulations. And of course, you guys can pick these up in our storefront if you want to replicate this exact look for your photos. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to reset the image to the exact original, how it was shot right in the camera. And there you can see this is the original image. Now, if I take the original image and just pull out the saturation, now that's not a terrible black and white. I've pulled the color out and it's hence black and white at this point. Now the lighting on this shot is pretty good. It looks like a good overall image, but if I compare it to my final black and white that I showed you in the beginning, you can really see a massive difference. You have this life and vibrancy in this image, and this one just kind of looks flat and a little bit dull. So I'm going to show you guys how to take the image on the left and turn it into the image on the right. So what I'm going to do first is just hop into the development module and take the original photo that I just turned black and white, as you can see. Now, a couple of things that I always look for in an image is first making sure my exposure is correct, making sure I have all the nice detail in my skin tones. And this image was shot using the Expo disc for my exposure and white balance, and that's how I got the exposure set to exactly where it is, and the color came right from my Expo disc. Now if I just pull that saturation all the way to minus 100%, there's a few other things I can do, which I show you guys in plenty of other videos, from tweaking my exposure, slightly adjusting contrast, working on shadow detail if I need that, or opening up blacks or pulling down a teeny bit of highlights if need be. This image doesn't really need any of that other than just a little bit of added contrast makes it look great. The main things that I'm going to focus on here is going down to the HSL color and black and white module and then clicking on black and white. When I do that, I'm now able to adjust the brightness of all the major 9 colors in the typical image. So what I'm going to do is focus on the red and the orange channel, and then depending on what's in your background or what's in the rest of the image, you could potentially mess with some of the other channels. Now, of course, I have all these built into my presets here in Lightroom that you guys can get from my store, or you can just copy exactly what I'm doing here and build your own presets. So this is really the big one right here. I'm going to take the orange channel and just pop it up just a little bit. And you can see, if I show you the before and after of that all of a sudden her skin tones, which are in the orange channel, just get that little bit of extra life in them, and it looks really nice. Now we don't want to go too extreme with that because it's going to wash out detail, but adding just a little bit, depending on the image of course, really makes your photos sing. If I pull it the other way, you can actually really see what brightness of the image is being affected by pulling up this orange channel. So just about to 26% we get this nice beautiful vibrance while still retaining all of the nice detail in this image. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we retain detail. I might even pull that down just a touch. Now the only other thing that I notice is she has some very heavy red lipstick on, as you can see from the original photo. Now when we turn the image black and white, we're losing just a little bit of that vibrancy in there. So what I'm going to do is grab the red channel for this shot and just pull that up just a hair. And if you watch the before and after there, you can see how her lips just get a nice little bit of vibrance into them, and they look really, really great. Now, of course, in the background of this image, we have some different colors. We may have some potentially yellows, as you can see, and I can pull up the brightness of that. We also have green, so you can affect that. If you had a blue sky, you could brighten or darken it slightly. Remember, the key here is subtlety. We don't want to do anything in the extreme. Now the other major thing that I do for my black and whites is I add a split toning. Now split toning is when I take the highlights and the shadows and I put a different hue in the highlights and a different hue in the shadows. I'm actually just going to tone the image because I'm going to put the exact same tone into the highlights and shadows. And this is what my tone is. I'm going to do a hue of about 38. Oops, that's 28. We're going to do a hue of about 38 and then a saturation of about 8. And now you can see, if I look at the before and after, if I just turn that on and off, you can see that we've added just this little bit of milky color tone, I call it, into the shadows. Now somewhere between 4 and 8 is a good amount where it doesn't look like it's overdone. It just looks like it has a little bit of life in it. Now we're going to do the exact same thing in the shadows. I'm going to click on 38 for the hue and then 8 for the shadow. And then you can look at the image overall, and if you feel, man, that's just a little bit rich for me, you can tone it down to, say, about 4. And for this image, I feel like that is going to work really, really well. And now if we look, again, I'm going to create another before and after for you guys so that you can see the difference between those two shots. Now, if you look at the difference between the original, where I just pulled the saturation down, which is now here on the right, and what I've now done to the image, you can really see just a beautiful difference between the two shots. This one's got, and it's not a huge difference, it's just that little bit of life, a little bit of extra brightness in the skin tone, and that little bit of milky tone in it. And it's starting to look really, really nice. So now we're going to go back to the image we've been working on, and the last thing that I'm going to do for this particular image is I'm just going to add a little bit of grain to it, because I really like sort of that film emulation that we can add onto the shot. So if I add just a little bit of grain and I make the size nice and small, so we get this nice little bit of texture on the image. It's starting to look really, really slick now. Now that I have the tone in there, I might come back and go, maybe it just needs a touch more brightness in the skin tone, just a little bit. And bada bing, it's starting to look really great. Now the other thing I can do as well is if I take just this original black and white and I just go down to my preset, I can just click my preset on and bada bing, it's finished. The image is now done. I don't have to do anything else to the shot. So that right there is how we create our black and white skin tone. Add that little bit of milkiness to it in the shadows and in the highlights for a toning, and then pull up that orange, potentially red channel just for a little bit of added pop to the image, and they look fantastic.